ThunderCats, Hello, Brian. Welcome, and we are back talking again about ThunderCats and SilverHawks. How are you guys doing?
We're doing all right. It's busy. We're putting things in boxes, putting boxes in the mail, and people are opening up boxes. That's what's going on right now.
I noticed that there's been quite a lot of stuff going out lately. We started recently with Wave 6, and we've had Mandora and the Electro Charger going out. Invisible Tiger started shipping from Big Bad, and now also the Thunder Tank that started shipping from around the globe everywhere. Mine is almost here. It's going to be here in 4 days. So I'm so excited. A lot of things has been happening. And now you've also got SilverHawks Wave 2 that's about to hit the stores everywhere. How's that?
Yes.
How's that feeling for you guys?
I'd love to say elation, but it's more just like disgusted relief, because it's like I'm happy it's finally out, but God, it took way too long. Like, there were so many hurdles on this stuff. I'm happy that it's finally here, but I can't really completely enjoy it yet because it's not all done yet. It's not all out. And if I can get back to things being on schedule like they're supposed to be, then I'll be completely happy. But right now it's still a little like, we're not done yet. SilverHawks 1's coming out from the factory right now, and some of the other stuff's coming out, and G.I. Joe's coming out. It's like, I just got to get back on schedule. Once I'm back on schedule, then I'll be fully relieved. But I'm only partially relieved.
When do you think that would be? Sometime early this year?
Quite honestly, the back last November, December in January of last year, which obviously January was this year, started really getting back on track. A lot of the facility issues we were having, a lot of just issues we were having working through not being able to go to China and everything else started to open up and ease up, and things started moving quicker again. So we're still playing catch up, but I would think here in the next couple months, we're back to like smooth running machine. And that I'm excited about.
Because
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like we've been waiting for all this stuff to come out. It's finally coming out. We're like, oh, SilverHawks 2 is getting ready to show up. SilverHawk 1 is right behind that. G.I. Joe 1 is right behind that. And G.I. Joe 2 is right behind that. And like Simpsons finally just the last wave just landed. It's like this stuff it's like the wave has been building forever and it's finally starting to crash. And I'm like, thank God. But there's a lot of stuff caught up in that wave.
Okay, now you hinted at Wave 1 from SilverHawks. I know that there were some issues or some fine-tuning that you had to finalize in terms of the paint to get that just right. Are you happy with the end product?
I am happy with the end product. It's not exactly how I envisioned it, but I don't think anyone's going to be unhappy with it. And so by just simply saying it's not exactly how I envisioned it after we went through 22 rounds of paint doesn't mean that the paint isn't just as cool. It's just slightly different than what I had started out with my intent. But I think the paint that it will have on it, people will be pumped on.
And now Wave 2 is just about, I know somebody posted on Twitter the other day that Big Bad has started notifying them that there's incoming shipment. And you've also updated things on your side that it's about to ship early next month sometime.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with the end product of Wave 2?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I think people will be very happy with it. Just took 439 years. We started that project when Christopher Columbus was still alive.
Correct. So now that we've moved on, almost about to do the 4th century anniversary of the
the 4th century anniversary of SilverHawks. I remember when they were made out of wood. And we had John Adams, the silversmith, making them.
So now this we've got 1, 2, and 3. Well, 2 is now almost done with people, and 1 is almost at the warehouse. 3 is obviously still in production. Can we expect to see wave 4 in the next coming months?
Yeah, wave 4 will be here. I think we're waiting on wave 4 until wave 1 delivers.
Okay, so it won't be directly after 2 is out.
No, it'll be, I think it's May. I think May is when we're planning for wave 4. Because I want 1 and 2 to be in your hand. 1's what you've been waiting for. 2, you're also waiting for, but not quite the same as 1. So we got to get 1 and 2 in your hands, and then 4 will be up. So I believe it's May.
Will there then be another 3-month waiting period for wave 5 to come out later this year?
It would be, I think it's a little longer than that. I mean, most of these we've moved into a 4-month cadence just because it takes sort of 8, ideally it takes 8 months. I say that right now, and every single person watching this video is, you mean a year and a half, right? And I'm like, it's supposed to be 8 months. So, yeah, it's more like the ideal scenario is every 4 months, but it'll probably be 4 or 5 months after that before wave 5, simply because we need to, then I'll need wave 3 to drop, kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
okay. And you're still planning to be like three waves in between each new wave and then each release?
Yeah, that's the ideal scenario. Yes.
Okay. Now I've mentioned that some big bad notices have gone out in terms of wave 2, and we have talked about this before. But what would you say to somebody now today when they say, "But I would rather buy something from Big Bad because I'll get it first"? How would you address something like that to a newcomer to this?
I think it's more exaggerated with the Thunder Tank than it is with other items. You will see in coming months that we'll probably have our inventory before other people. Like right now, I'm thinking about it in terms of the Thunder Tank, then I'm thinking about it in terms of regular figures. In terms of regular figures, obviously every single retailer handles their shipment separately. Big Bad handles theirs in a different way than we handles ours. They go through different ports. They go, I don't think I'm giving away Joel's secrets here, but he goes up through Vancouver, Washington, and across the, country. Ours come through the port of Oakland, which usually means they have to go to the port of LA before they go to the port of Oakland. In the past, there are times where we have to prioritize which shipments get out first. And if I'm oversimplifying everything, leading into Chinese New Year, there's a huge amount of bills that happen. So the end, most everybody else in the world, I believe your financial year ends December 31st. Is that correct? So everybody here, like, job ends 12/31. Anything that happens in January is a new fiscal year. That's how the business runs. In China, it's basically 1/31 when CNY starts, Lunar New Year, if you will. So usually there's an amazing run on payments leading into that. And so in as much, it's always every year a matter of like shell gaming and not shell gaming. God, this all sounds so nefarious. It's not nefarious, but there's a lot of things where we have to do to like, all of a sudden, like, hey, this is coming up. This payment's due in 2 weeks. People show up and go, hey, we were able to jump on this yesterday, so I need you to pay today. And it's just like, wait, that's not how this works. It's like, so there's a whole lot of that happens in the last 45 days of the year. And so if we're specifically talking about the Thunder Tank, you almost play I hate to say, a game with it where you're like, if I let Big Bad take their, units or EE take their units or whoever take their units before I take my units, then their bill for paying for those units is due sooner. So I'm like, all right, well then, ship these out to the partners first so their bills come in sooner, because now I have all these unexpected factory bills because they want to get paid by the end of the year. So in that regard, our Thunder tanks were the last ones out. I think you will see in figures going forward, though, that generally our figures will start over the next couple months, will start arriving at the same time, if not a week or two earlier than everybody else. So in that regard, everybody, I know you don't believe me. It's okay, because you have history as a pattern to look at. But you will start seeing that if you order from Super7, you will get them first.
Because that's one thing. A friend of mine and I had a discussion the other day. Some stores do have the advantage that you don't have to pay immediately when you order something. But on the flip side of it, when you pay for it immediately, you don't have to worry about getting bombarded with bills the moment that they all arrive. And this last few weeks has actually been a prime example of all of these new releases coming one after the other, and especially for a lot of international customers. I know that can be quite excessive when you have all of these bills at once. So like you having to choose which ones goes out first from the factory, you also as a collector have to decide, okay, this is the one that I'm going to take first because I did not expect it now. But when you purchase directly from Super7, it's over and done with, and you just have to wait for it to ship.
I love your salesman bit right there. We're just gonna, there we go. Eggman selling it in. Come on, bring it home for me. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send in my
I mean, the goal isn't obviously to make it crazy for everybody, but at the same time, you're like, oh, I want to get that. Oh, I want to get it's sort of like, and then it's like, oh, wait, they all came due at once. Oh, that's a problem. But we are endeavoring to make the process a little bit easier. So we're going to have some updates a little later this year to how we can hopefully make it a little easier for you. Hold on, I got to make it in camera so you can order from us.
Awesome. Now talking about Super7 delivering, the standard tank, like we mentioned just now, has begun shipping, and
yes,
I wish mine was here right now. It's going to
we'll
be
have to do another video in
5
days after you get it, right?
Oh yes, I'm definitely going to. You're going to see it. And the response from collectors so far, and I've seen this from all parts of the world, has been awesome. I don't want to swear too much now, but you'll hear a lot of pee if I start swearing. But
no. Well, that's one of those things where I think every time we've talked about this, I've told you, I was like, when people get this in their hands and they go, oh my God, this is so much bigger, so much heavier, and so much more substantial than I ever imagined, it's going to blow people's minds.
I've seen people picking it up on the side of the road and then carrying it up the stairs. And these are strong guys, and you can see these fucking huge boxes that they are carrying like this. So it is so awesome to see this arriving. And my question to you is, are you satisfied with the final product?
Oh, I say this because we've talked about it. Like, I'm beyond satisfied. I'm ecstatic with it. And that's why I've been like, I can't, once people get this in their hands, everybody, it took longer than I expected. All that kind of washes away because you're like, it's more than I imagined. And I honestly feel like, and maybe I will be proven wrong by somebody, but I think for the most part, everybody that gets it is going to be like, I had high expectations, but this beat them.
I can see that from the videos and the photographs that I've seen.
It's sort of how Snake Mountain sort of came out, where people were like, I'm into it and this better hold up. And then they're like, oh wow, this is more than I thought.
Well, you can see.
That was an easy layup. You're just setting it up for me. You're like, here, use this. Talk about this.
I'm loving it, and I know Skeletor is not quite too happy with me because he's over there, but Thundercats have
That's all
taken
right.
over. They've kicked him out.
That's what, Mumra, you're not messing around.
So, what I wanted to ask you is there anything that you wanted to include in the Thunder Tank when you started with it that the budget did not allow?
No, I mean that's why the budget was the budget, so that we can get everything in there.
Okay.
I mean, it's got a Sama flange. What else do you need?
Yes, 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 yes. So now, here's the big question. Big. You said that when this is out of the door, and it's almost
Yeah.
out of the door at Super 7's warehouse, but I bet it's all gone from the factory. There's no Thunder Tanks left at the factory.
There's no Thunder tanks left at the factory. There's still some on boats, though. Yeah, I think we started getting ours this week.
You will be moving on to the next big project. But my
Yes.
question is, you've got the party wagon that's still being developed. And is that influential in terms of the next big project for Thundercats? Or do you want to, or do you treat them as separate projects? I know they are, but do you treat them as separate big things to do?
They're separate in a way. Now that Thunder Tank has or is delivering, we can really start to have serious conversations about what the next item might be, and is that a Thundercats item as well. Obviously, there's a lot. There's a couple things that people keep asking for. There's a lot of asks around, obviously, Cat's Lair, which considering that the paw alone is, Thunder Tank size, like
Yes.
there's issues there. Sky Cutter gets brought up a lot. There's the Tally Hawk, you know.
Gosh.
We're talking about, okay, we're just finally at the point where we'll allow ourselves to start considering the next one, if you will. Like, because this took so long, it was like, let's not. The moment I start planning for the next thing, and I've got to make sure that people get it, and when they get it, they're psyched, so that they are wanting another thing for us. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I want to make sure that when you get it, you're like, all right, what's next? Because if you get it and you're like, that was all right, then I put all this effort into something that I shouldn't be. Does that make any sense?
Yes. So I know that it took quite a while for you to develop and finalize the planning for the Thunder Tank back in the day. It was quite a while when it was all started and behind the scenes until we actually saw it. Did COVID influence the release date of the Thunder Tank back in the day? And would that length of period?
COVID wrecked all of this stuff. Release dates on everything are jacked because of COVID. Yeah, like we've said, probably anybody watching this ad nauseum is like, please don't tell me and complain about how you couldn't travel to China. But it's like, if I can't go to the factory and physically sit with the person making it to make changes, if those changes can only happen via FedEx, everything just comes to a slow grinding halt. Like, yeah. And, while technically I think some people are allowed in, I mean, we've got other people that work for us now that are in the factories because they live in China, which is great. Like, still no one from over here can really go over there, and at some point we will get past that as well. And then speed
it up. Okay.
Yeah.
So will this next big project take a lot faster to finalize? And then,
Yes,
like, would we see it at the end of the year?
I think you'll see something probably Q3, after San Diego, probably. That's my rough guess, is the next one will be after San Diego.
Okay. Thundercats related?
No, it's gonna be a big version of you.
Okay, no comment. That's fine.
You're like,
Now, no, I'm not commenting on this. I don't want
yeah,
to get into trouble with anybody. You
yeah,
know what I would really like, and I think a lot of people also would really like that.
uh, yeah, you Blair.
So talking about things that I like now, behind me you can see there's Wave 6.
Yes.
And Brian, I have to say that I have been blown out of the water with Wave 6. And the last time that we spoke about Wave 6 was in May last year. That was, I bombarded you with questions on Wave 6. And I had a lot of negativity from folks saying, why are you hammering and hammering and hammering about Wave 6? We want cartoon versions of the characters. But when these hit the floor running, the big names have been blown out of the water. They have praised this Wave 6 because you have hit something that I personally did not expect or did not associate with when I saw this Wave 6. I loved it, but having it in hand is like a completely different thing. I got transported back to when I was 6 years old. That it was
Yeah.
just like that, and I was back there. This wave is a surprise hit. Did you expect this?
I knew that we would get some of this because, we've done enough toys where it's like, okay, here's our take on it. Here's a reimagining versus sometimes it's the paint, sometimes it's the art. Here's that one other thing where you get it, and all of a sudden it's like you are that moment of, like you said, the moment of transportation. Like for you, I'm sure it was like all of a sudden when I hold this and almost like literally the scale of it in your hand versus the scale of the toy in your hand when you were a kid. And it's that shade of sort of blue grayish green on Mumra, or it's that really vibrant orange on Lion-O, where all of a sudden that is the thing all of a sudden that's just like, oh, I'm a kid again. Where it's like, oh, I get the reference and it's cool, but when you have it in your hand, sometimes it is that sort of magical moment where it's not the thing you think it is that's going to take you back. It's another small piece of it mixed with it that's just become so magical. And it has been surprising how, like, we knew people would like it because it was toy, and hey, I had those when I was a kid, and that's cool. I think we have been surprised by the sheer volume of people that are having the thing that you are having right now, which is just like, like I'm surprised at how much I was taken aback by this when I held it in my hand.
So does this influence the way that you look at producing LJN versions in the future in this line?
Yes, it does, because we definitely said, oh, hey, there's a couple other LJN versions here that we didn't include in this wave that we should maybe make more of a priority, where there was like, oh, we could do that at some point, but they were kind of off to the side. And now it's like, oh, we may need to do a couple of those sooner.
So soon, like in when can we expect to see the next LJN selection?
Soon as it, can you please tell me what's happening in Wave 9?
Not Wave
Yeah,
9?
Wave 8
Not
is
Wave
up right
9?
now.
Yes,
Wave
is
9.
it? It's not Wave 9, is it?
See, my notes aren't even here. I can't remember. We just adjusted Wave 9 and 10 and 11 and all that. So there's stuff, but we were already well on our way with Wave 9. So, we're well into it. So yes, there are a couple significant toy recolors. There are a couple where it's like the toy recolor really isn't that different than the original figure, than the animated figure that we made. So, but there are a couple other significant toy recolors where you're like, oh, there's an obvious moment here that needs to happen.
Okay, now talking about that with these differences. Now, Panthro is a prime example. I mean
That's
the thing.
exactly the one where you're like, he's so close.
So how would you approach this? Because obviously the version that we got is not pinless. And is this an opportunity for you to create a pinless version of Panthro and then offer him as an LJN inspired
Quite
version?
honestly, I hadn't even thought about it in pinless versus non-pinless. I had just been looking at it as in is the aesthetic of the toy radically different enough that, you need to buy a second one because the colors are so close. And my initial, to be very transparent, my initial impression was that I felt like if I tried to do that, people would think I was just trying to gouge them for money, and not that many people would really need it because the other one is pretty darn close. But I hadn't even considered the idea that we could go and theoretically modify tooling to go pinless. That makes it a bit more interesting. It's still a little bit to me where it starts. I don't want it to feel like it's abusive. Like, oh, you made me buy a pin version. Now you're making me come back and buy a pinless version with just the tiny update to paint. You're a terrible person, kind of thing.
No, you're not.
So,
Please make it. I can promise you. My OCD is going to be quite upset if I don't get an LJ in Panther face. I'm just teasing you. But
okay, yeah,
that is an opportunity. I mean, yes, these are basic repaints of the molds that we've got before, but there's been some drastic changes to them as well. And this is where the clever team behind the designers have given us LJN versions while still using the buck that we got, well, mostly from these figures. So
yeah,
what I want to also ask you, characters like Wily Kit and Wily Cat, they are she is no, I'll get to her just in a minute, but her PVC toy and her posable toy, that looks a lot like in the cartoon, but the opposite side is Wily Cat was orange, so he's not like the way that he appeared in the show. He had that distinct orange color to his skin tone. Is that something that you would consider offering him rather than her because of them being so different, or because he is LJN inspired as a character and she is not? Or would you look at how would you approach something like that?
I mean, right now, we just put up Wily Kit a couple days ago, so we've got to make Wily Kit. I got to deliver Wily Kit. I got to make Wily Cat. I would assume that anybody looking at this going Wily Kit only, well, that must be Wily Cat's coming separately, so they can look into the future without too much problem there and be like, oh, all right, we know what's going on here. I need to get those in your hands before I can even consider whether or not there's recolors. But yeah, those are those cases where it makes sense. It's like, oh, that's a radical departure. Like, I want that too. Like, of course, we would go down that route once we get there.
Okay.
Assuming
So
people still care about Thundercats at that point.
I can promise you they will. These characters, I mean, we are now 8 waves deep, and there's been 15, almost 15 individual releases from Super7, and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And the reaction towards the latest one, which is Wave 8, has blown me out of the water. I'm so thrilled, and everybody that I've been talking to are in love with these characters. We finally have one of the twins from Super7, and you you
We've
have
been asking forever.
yes, we've got Snarf done now. Now we need to get the twins, and we've got the first half of them. And this Wily Kit is a complete resculpt. She's not the same as the one that was released before.
No.
What would you did you approach this with the intent of making her more cartoon accurate and
Yeah.
giving us something that's in style with what we've already gotten?
Yeah. And then obviously, we don't have access to those old molds anyways. So it was starting over, and how do we make it different? How do we make it make sense? But more than anything, it's like, we want it to fit in with everything else. It needs to look like it walked off the cartoon. So
Correct.
that was really what was driving us there.
So with her, she's got this new hoverboard, and that is so cool with that the cloud effect at the bottom, which she stands on. Will this be the same for Wily Cat?
Um, I can't remember if it's exactly the same or if they're different. I think that there's something about. I can't remember. I'm sorry, Eggman. I have failed your interview.
Too long ago. When did you
Uh,
plan on Wily Cat? How many months ago? How many years ago?
oh, I mean, that wave has been waiting for us to deliver this stuff for a long time. So wave nine's been done for a while. So
So
we're really in 10, 11, and 12 is what we're really doing this with right now.
so is
Like we
he
had a
in wave
plan, but
nine?
now we're redoing the plan slightly.
Sorry, is he in wave nine then? Wily Cat.
Yes, it would be in wave nine. I think that's an obvious answer for everyone. Yes. Wily Kit is in 8, Wily Cat is in 9.
Okay,
That's
so
the anchor. That's the anchor for the wave, man. Come on.
so I can confirm with you now that wave nine is Toon inspired. It's not LJN.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Or wave
Um,
9 at least has some that are Toon inspired and maybe some that are LJN inspired. Maybe it's a mix and match. I don't know.
Okay, now this is interesting because there are characters that never appeared in the tune, like the Stinger, and he was only on the LJN side. So
Yeah.
that is a perfect character that you can throw in anywhere. He doesn't necessarily have to be in the LJN side of a release, but he can fit in perfectly with the normal tune side of the line.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think for some of the Toon figures that I think, we were like, oh, there's a couple more. I didn't think we were going to do a whole wave of nothing but Toon figures. What we did was rearrange some future waves to include 1 or 2 Toon figures here or there. Sorry, toy figures here or there, so that they could come out, but you didn't have to be like, here's a whole wave of nothing but LJN. It's like, oh, there's some moments, there's some characters, and here's one here, here's one there. So if you want that one, you can grab it. And if you don't, it's okay. I think, we definitely tried to look at the waves a bit going forward, as I think everybody saw going into the last half of last year. There was all this, and this is true across all of our ultimates, is that there was this huge excitement around everything. And then everybody got a little burnt, I think, to a degree. So we've tried to also look at the waves of like, okay, maybe it still is a wave of 4, but what if I break up it into 2 cartoon and 2 toy? I'm using this as a theoretical example. And therefore, then if I'm a person that is interested in collecting this line, but I only want the cartoon ones, it's a little bit more affordable for me. We've definitely looked at some lines of Ultimates where we've typically done 5 figures in a wave. Like Power Rangers was one of those where there were 4 core characters like we'd done everywhere else. But then we're like, but you have to have a Zord. So that's 5 characters. And we're like, going forward, it seems like 5 it's too much for people to digest all at once. And like you said, all of a sudden, all these pre-orders happen at once and it's not inexpensive. So we've really looked at also ways to chop down the number of SKUs in some of the waves just to make it a little bit easier to afford. And that was one of the things we were looking at with the surprise. I mean, not surprise, but the over surprise that we got on the LJN recolor, which was, oh, how do we fit those in? And do we address some of those things with the waves going up so that maybe we put in an LJN here and there. So if you're not collecting that part of the line, then it's a little bit more affordable for you to collect. And now I'm going to get 3 instead of 4, but that just makes it a little easier to digest. So
Okay.
maybe that's over talking it all. That doesn't mean you're getting shortchanged on new characters.
No, that makes sense. I mean, there's a world of characters that can still be made. I mean, we've got lots
Oh
on
yeah.
both sides of the LJ inside and of the Toon side that we still want. Well, that I
Yeah.
want.
Okay. That Eggman wants.
Okay, so tell me, you have now surprised us with that big purple lump called Alluro, the first lunatic. And this,
I was wondering which one you were going to start off with. I mean, I knew you were going to start off with Wily Kit, but after that, I know my favorite of the wave. I didn't know what your favorite of the wave was going to be. So,
which
so
is
you're
your
going with
favorite?
Allura, huh?
Which is your
Hachiman.
favorite? Hachiman.
Hachiman.
Okay, so we'll get to the samurai shortly.
You're
Um,
like, yeah. I want to talk about Allura
yes,
with
because this
his big shoulders.
this is the first time ever in history that there is an actual lunatic toy that is being released, and I'm not talking about the LJ in Red Eye that was just the prototype back in the day. This is the first figure, and you are making history with this. Was he always meant to be in this wave?
Yeah, we've been talking about him for quite a long time. A lot of that comes back down to like, who are those really interesting and unique characters? Who's going to, when you put it on the shelf, really stand out and look different and give it that variety in your collection that makes it dynamic. If they're all exactly the same size and they're all exactly the same body type, sometimes it can get a bit repetitive. But then when you've got this guy in there, it helps change up the proportion. It just makes it look cooler. And he's just a really interesting character. So we were just one of those where we were just like, all right, let's go down here. And yeah, I don't know. We were always just, he's one of the ones we really want to make.
Well, he is looking exquisite, and I cannot wait to get him on my shelf. This is like a historic moment. Like I said, I'm so excited, and I've seen so many comments. Of course, people were very happy about Wily Kid, but they were so happy seeing the Lunatics. I mean, it's like I said, it's historic. So I can't wait for the next one.
It's such a funny one because even though mentally I know what the character is like, every time we're looking at the sculpt, I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with his shoulders. Oh, wait, no, there's not. Oh, wait, there's something wrong with his shoulders. Oh, wait, there's not. To every single time I would have to stop myself from being like, oh, we need to open this up. Like this, it's looking like that. I'm like, oh, it's supposed to look like this. All right, hold on.
That was my argument actually. The first time I saw him, I was like, okay, let's look at his shoulders, and it looks like he's shrugging, but then I realized, but actually, this is what he looks like in the show. I mean, when you see him coming out
Yes.
of that lava, he is standing like this. So that you
Yeah,
guys
he is very much this, and it's just like you want to go, oh, this needs to pull down and pull out a little bit and relax, and it's like, no, that's not it.
So
not what you think it's supposed to be. What is it supposed to be? It's like,
correct.
okay.
So the accessories, the one has, I see there's two bulbs, and they are like see-through. The one is bluish and the one is clear. Do they actually lift up and on top of that the handle that he's got? Because it does look like you can take them off and change it with another one. Is that what it is?
That's the plan. Yes.
Okay. And then the map that he comes with, is it made of plastic or is it paper?
I think it's a piece of injected plastic that's tempo printed.
Okay. And
making it paper is an interesting idea.
You can add another paper one in there. Don't take
Well, it's
plastic.
just one of those things where, we can, it's an interesting thing because in some ways you're like, oh, it would be cool from a tactile point, but then you're like, what you then build in, at least on the manufacturing side, is the variability, because like now I need to send out for printing and set up plates, and how much does it cost to get the printing press up and running to make this map? Like, oh, on a printing sheet you can fit 200 maps on a printing sheet, so like it will actually print for 2 minutes. And then it's like it may actually be more expensive to make ink on paper than to inject it in plastic and print it, which is a funny thought.
Yes. So you mentioned earlier that there was some reshuffling in the waves now with some
Not
possible no in the future. So some possible additions of LJN characters here and there. When we spoke last time, there was mention of a berserker coming soon. Are we still going to get the other berserkers to join Hammerhand?
Yes. The other berserkers are still out there.
Okay. So let's talk about your favorite character, which is, of course, Hachiman. Now, the first question I'm going to ask you is, where will we ever see his steed?
Oh, come on now. I don't know. It would be cool. Obviously, if you were going to do something like that properly, we should have done Hachiman and his steed like we did Mandora and Electrocharger. But we did not. So We'll just kind of have to play that one by ear. We talked about it briefly at one moment, and then basically just said we're too late with this one. We're already too far along to come back to the horse. So right now, there's nothing immediate on the horse.
Okay, so I mean, like you just mentioned now, and somebody told me the other day, this could have been a perfect opportunity for Snowman to come with Snow Meow if you had like a mini point 0.5 wave. Um, is that something you're looking at in the future of doing pairing characters with bigger accessories or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's worth noting maybe for everybody to understand. Like, even if we're talking about Mandora and the Electrocharger, if I sold, I'm making up fake numbers. If I sold 10 Mandoras, then I only sold 5 Electrochargers. So while I think a lot of the people that we are talking to at this moment are the kind of people that are like, oh yeah, I want the Electrocharger, I want Snow Meow, I want everybody, right? That's the person that's going to spend an hour watching a video of me sitting here talking about ThunderCats. A lot of people that collect these figures, though, are the kind of person that's like, I just want Pandora. I don't care about the rest. So when we start talking about things like Snow Meow or any of these other things, it's a matter of, is that character popular enough in some ways to drag along an accessory that is unique only to them? Where, like, while Panther drives the Thunder Tank a lot, it's not unique to him. The whole team interacts with the Thunder Tank. If you're talking about a Tallyhawk, for example, like, multiple characters interact with the Tallyhawk. Where if you're talking about Snow Meow, you are limited to just that character. And so can that character then bring enough people along that will also be interested in that, for lack of a better description, vehicle? So it's not to say that it's not something that we couldn't do. It just makes it trickier because the size and scale of it are at a price point where it's not like, oh, it's a figure. It's like, no, that's 3 figures worth and a lot of space on the shelf. So that's where we get into sort of a little bit of trickiness. And I think what we felt confident with Mandora was, like, there's so much with Mandora where she is the Electrocharger is so integral to her character. Plus, you put Lionel on the back of it and they ride together. There's a little bit more storyline around that you can build. It's not to say that you can't with the other ones. It's just there's a lot of trickiness when you get into that one character specific vehicle versus a vehicle that can be used by multiple characters, and therefore there's multiple reasons to have it in my collection. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes. So can you say that a year or 2 years from now, if a character like Snow Meow is still a hot topic, is that something that you'll by then see, listen, people really do want this? It's not something that was just talked about because he is associated with somebody like Snowman.
Yeah, I think with Snow Meow, I keep coming back to, we don't have a business solve for this yet. So let's put it in context of that. Is I almost feel like something like Snow Meow would have to be almost Kickstarter like. But even if you're going to do something that's Kickstarter like, I've still got to go out there ahead of time and do all the sculpting, paint. There's still a lot of work that, if it doesn't work, isn't recouped. And I'm not trying to be like business, but there's sort of a level of what is that. But I think Snow Meow is a really interesting one. We've talked about 3 or 4 other things that have come up across multiple licenses where it's a 50-50. Is it going to get to enough? Is it that kind of thing that people are into? Is it not? How would we handle it? And we've talked a bunch about, like, there seems to be sort of a middle ground with a few things for Ultimates where a Kickstarter approach would make sense. But, and I'm going to bore people here, but the back end of how you handle a Kickstarter on the systems side it gets complicated when it's not. I know it seems overly simple to everybody else. Like, yeah, you just do this, and if not, you refund the money, and it's no big deal. It's like how all waterfalls and reportings and inventory issues and amortizations work across all systems. Those things become complicated until you build. Literally, you have to build a system to handle it, or just go completely outside. We've talked about it. It just hasn't been completely like that's priority one of things that need to happen. But I do think it would be cool to say, hey, we're not 100% sure on a couple of these things. Like, let's put it out there and see. And Snow Meow is definitely one of those.
Okay, it makes sense. So back to your favorite character, Archiman. Now, the weapons that he comes with, that yes, that was like, wow, that was so clever. That effect that's surrounding the sword, is that removable? Can you put it on the other sword, or is it part of the sculpt?
I want to say that I think it is removable, and that the hand and the sort of lightning effect, if you will, that part's connected. But I think it is snap-on, but I don't want to speak completely out of turn, but I feel like it is. I feel like it is. I want to say that it is, but I'm not 100% confident, because at a certain point I'm just like, oh yeah, woo, this looks great. All right. Like we talked about it once, we agreed on it, and then after that we were just fine-tuning the sculpt. I believe it is a snap-on piece.
Okay. Now, talking about removable, the helmet, that head sculpt, is that one thing with the helmet on top of the head, or is it removable, like with Snowman's helmet?
I think it is too. I think that the helmet head is not removable. And that's why we have a non-helmet head and a helmet head, because for us to make the helmet removable and make it look like it looked on screen, then all of a sudden I've got to make it big enough to come across the whole head, and then it's out of proportion. So the reality is, for it to look like it's supposed to be on screen, I'm literally having to cut giant sections of his head away for the helmet to fit on, so that it looks like you remember it looking.
Yes, of course.
But it's not functional. That's why there's two different.
Okay, that makes sense. Then we've got a big surprise, which is Captain Shiner. He's very welcome to this line. I really did not expect to see Captain Shiner so soon. Why did you choose him?
Just I don't know, variety.
Okay.
Fancy word. It's the same thing. It's like sometimes it's just like, what are characters we think are interesting or different or unexpected? And he doesn't look like a lot of the other characters, with his svelte bodysuit and everything. It was just a different way to bring in something unexpected, I think. And we struggled quite a bit for a while on how we were going to handle those arms, because he does this, and doing that with articulation never works. They end up doing this. So like, all right, it's going to be removable up here, and you're going to be able to snap on his folded arms so that it looks right. Because,
how did that come to be? Did you guys just decide that, because this is the first time that we are seeing something where it's a pose like this, versus you having to do it yourself?
Yeah, but it's so, for him, you need him to be this, and it needs to lay against the chest the right way. The arms need to fold in and out of each other, things that we can't really accomplish effectively in articulation. Just because human arms bend and twist in weird ways, and skin is supple, and muscles move out of the way for other muscles. It's like, same thing. My forearm muscle is going to be pushed by my hand here. Can't do that in plastic. There's no give.
Yes.
And so you end up with this stuff, which doesn't, just not right. Doesn't look right. he's got to be judging you, you know? So we just kind of talked about it back and forth, back and forth. It wasn't working. And finally we're like, what if they're just molded together and they snap on over here at the shoulders? And then you can have the right look that lays on the chest correctly. And then you can snap that off and have the regular arms. Sort of how we have the flying wings arms with the wings attached in SilverHawks, and then the regular wings.
Yes. Okay. So these
I mean,
are
regular arms.
yeah. This pose is it's one solid piece. It's not you cannot move the hands or anything. It's one molded
One
piece.
solid piece.
Okay.
Yes.
That monopole that he's wearing, that's also one piece that plugs into. I'm assuming it's plugging into his chest up here. Is that where does it? Is there like a little hole or something that plugs in? Because it looks like it's a separate piece for Captain
See, now you're
Shiner.
gonna make me pull up the image. Hold on. Now I'm gonna have to go over here and pull it up so I can look at it again. Hold on. Captain Shiner.
While you're
Oh, you
looking
mean
at that,
the part that's plugging
yes,
plugging into his strap,
yes,
Yeah, it just snaps in.
okay. Is that a clear plastic? That glass
Yeah,
that is going to go in there, and you
yeah,
can take it
it'll
out.
be a piece. So what will likely happen there is, hold on, I gotta go back to Zoom, is that the entire thing will be cast in clear and then we'll paint the black.
Okay, okay. So now we've got wave 8 out of the way. I know it's just started, but now we can start looking at the future again.
Yes.
You've caught up tremendously, like we discussed earlier. So you mentioned that it might be 3 or 4 months until we see wave 9,
Wave
or would it
9.
be a little bit longer?
Wave 9, I can tell you exactly when wave 9 is. Wave 9, actually, wave 9, it says it's in July. It seems late, but it says it's July 5th, is what my calendar says.
Okay.
Now, don't hold me exactly to that date, but that's the plan. This July 5th is wave 9.
Okay. So when we spoke the last time, you mentioned that this year we're going to see 2 exclusives for ThunderCats.
Yes.
Will we see any exclusives for SilverHawks this year?
I don't think there's any SilverHawks exclusives. No.
Okay. When would we see the first exclusive for ThunderCats? At San Diego Comic-Con? Or is it like a separate surprise release?
There's a separate surprise release. It's a surprise release. I'm looking. I'm just refreshing everything. Yep. There's 2 for the year, both surprises. Can't tell you anything else.
Okay. Can we expect half a wave somewhere in the year? Like with Mandora
Well,
and Electrocharger?
the 2 exclusives will be by themselves. They will be one-offs.
Okay.
So you will have. So this year you'll have 9 in July, and 10 is scheduled for November.
Okay. And that's roughly when all these other waves, wave 7 and the Reptilians and Java would have come out by then.
Yep.
Are they still on track for delivery for starting August, September, October?
All of that stuff's actually going great right now.
Okay.
Let's just do that.
Okay.
Do that. Can you help me? Thank you.
Yes. Then we're back to seeing reaction figures again this year for ThunderCats.
Yes.
Still scheduled for July?
See, now you're gonna make me go back to I gotta go different calendar for reaction.
And will we see more than one wave this year of reaction figures?
They're not in July. They're a little later.
Okay.
They're still this year. They're after San Diego's. Can't remember exactly where. I'm not seeing. This thing is really hard to. When you get into the reaction calendar, you can just imagine it's just
crazy.
It's like looking at the Matrix. So they are after San Diego. That is what I can tell you.
Are we only getting one wave?
Sometime in the year after July.
Okay. Will we only get one wave this year, or are we going to get another maybe later the year, or a mini LJN inspired wave?
Well, we've already done some LJNs in
Mm.
reaction. So there's one wave and there's some other stuff, but we know we've I don't know, lagged a little bit on ThunderCats reaction, so we're gonna work on getting back up to speed.
There's a very important question that I've been asked a lot. Will we possibly see naked Thundercats? Is that something that
Naked,
you can do, like the ones from Exodus? Is that a sensitive subject to discuss with Warner Brothers? I mean, it's on the DVD, it's streaming, you can see it. Are they an option?
I mean, I'm sure theoretically it's an option. It's not. I can say with complete confidence, it's not one that we've ever been like, oh yeah, we should totally do naked Thundercats. We have not considered naked Thundercats at this point. Is that something people really want? They don't feel right, do they? They don't look like the characters.
That's the thing. I mean, you've made us Jaga where he actually has that magical cloth giving them the clothes. So we do need him to give them to some naked Thundercats. We don't have him standing there with already fully clothed Thundercats. So we need some furry feline bodies standing there.
Some naked Thundercats. This is just getting creepy now, Eggman. You know.
So it's an interesting thing because I mean these are not just sculpts that you can reuse. You're going to have to redo them.
You'd have to do it, you know, from scratch, top to bottom.
Yes.
Yeah. That has not been one in all the myriad of odd things here and there. We haven't really. I think we've talked about it like once with it. No. And you know, just like in that, like, what could we do? And we're just like, yeah, no. Like that's just creepy. It's a little creepy.
But it is a little creepy because it sounds gross, but that's the thing. I mean, I still until this I cannot understand how they allowed something like that on TV. And sure, it is not naked, but if you look at it, they don't have any clothes on. I mean, why would Java give them clothes if they were naked?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
let's move on to something less creepy.
Let's move on.
Something more fun. You've released a glow-in-the-dark figure in ThunderCats, and you've released a gimmicky figure with Lino from Hook Mountain Ice. Do you have any plans for any similar characters in the future?
One of the two exclusives will have something that makes sense. When you see it, it'll make sense. You'll be like, oh yeah, I got it. Yeah,
okay. And then you've just released some new plush figures from Ghost. I'm assuming you announced the X as an O. Is that something you can do for ThunderCats plush figures or characters?
Theoretically, yes, I think so. The Ghost thing is a really interesting thing because it's my good friend David Horvath, who you may know from Ugly Dolls way back in the day. David Horvath and Sunmin Kim. Let me rephrase that. I've known them for 20 plus years. And Ghosts is an NFT artist of, I don't know that world very well, but apparently he is very, very famous in that world. And he grew up on Ugly Doll. And so he ended up talking to David, and they made a collaborative NFT where David sort of redrew some of his characters in his style. And then they were like, oh, we should make a plush out of this. But Ugly Doll isn't really a thing anymore. And we ended up working with them to do it almost as just like, it's this really great story of like, here's a kid who grew up loving this thing, became a functioning artist as an adult, and then got to go back with one of his heroes and make something. And so we were just like, this is just super fun. Let's just make these plushes for fun. It's not a big, crazy thing, but it's a cool little, I hate to call it emotional story, but it's a really cool little small world coming together story. So, plus, I like the idea of like something that exists in the NFT world that's all sort of theoretical in a lot of way. And we're like, no, here's the physical. The physical version is what's interesting to me. So it was a fun little project. So back to your question on could we be making plushes for ThunderCats? I'd have to look at our license contract. It doesn't mean that we clearly can make plush at this point. The question is,
Yes,
when
can you do ThunderCats?
or should it make sense? Is there a demand for ThunderCat plush? I don't know.
Okay, because like in the past, you know that there was this Snarf plush back in the day, and I know it was released somewhere a little bit later, but that is the only character in plush form that I know of that's officially licensed. So if it is something that you could do, then there might be a demand for
it. Maybe.
Maybe. So with everything now getting back to the proper factory line in terms of production and things getting back on track, what is the most exciting thing that you are looking forward to this year?
Most exciting thing I'm looking for this year? Hey, if we just can get back on track and get things coming out, I think people will be. It's the same thing. Like we finally got Thunder Tank in people's hands and got the LGNs in people's hands, and they are like, oh, now that I have this, I'm so excited. We just delivered Simpsons into people's hands. And now that the Simpsons got delivered, people in that world are, oh my God, these are amazing. I'm super excited. SilverHawks hasn't gotten into anybody's hands. G.I. Joe is just about to get into people's hands. Like, if I can get this stuff into people's hands and get that level of excitement that you're feeling across all the different fan groups that I'm talking to, and I'm saying that in a weird way, but just like, that's the part I just want to get back into the momentum of it all, back into the excitement of it all, because that's the fun part. You know, it's fun for me to go out there and see people posting the Thunder Tank and go, oh my God, you don't know how happy this made me. Or the LJN color. And it's like, I know I've got some of that in SilverHawks. I know I've got some of that in G.I. Joe, and I haven't been able to put that in people's hands. They've been waiting for a year, 18 months for that stuff. Like, I hate to say there's animosity, there's not, but there's the excitement and the pent-up goodwill has dipped. I need to get back up. I need to get it back into people's hands so that the excitement and the goodwill comes back. Because these things are so much fun and they're great toys. And that's the exciting part. And I feel like we're just starting to, get our feet back onto the ground again so we can run. And that's the part I'm looking forward to this year, is just getting it going again, getting it coming again, getting people going, holy shit, this is awesome. What's next? It's like, I got it. Here we go. Let's go.
Well, Brian, I can definitely confirm that it is starting that way in 2023, and it is going to carry on like that for the rest of the year with everything exciting that's coming out. And I mean, Wave 8 has just been confirming it again, and I am sure that, like me, everybody else who loves ThunderCats and very soon SilverHawks are going to be excited at getting the new products from you guys. So I think it's going to be a great year. So thank you so much. And it's really always awesome to talk to you about toys. And I hope we do it again very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. And everybody, thank you for watching. You're an hour in. You could have done anything more productive with your life than this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian.